So I'm probably gonna be uploading this to the main YouTube channel because I want to update people on the New World situation. I've been waiting for server transfers for quite some time. For those of you that are curious on my own personal progress in New World, I am level 41. I have a house in the Cutlass Keys because it made it easy for me to just like travel around the map, and the Cutlass Keys is actually a really good strategic point for me because there's iron veins nearby. Obviously wood, you can get wood pretty much anywhere, but the Cutlass Keys also give a lot of what do you call it, faction stuff. What was the name of the faction stuff? The faction reputation. You can get a lot of that if you do the PvP quests, and at this point in time nobody is in the earlier level areas because like 90% of the people in my server, I don't know what it's like on all the other servers, but 90% of the people in my server just like zoom. They all just like rushed to that level 60, and then they got there and a big percentage of them also stopped playing, which is to be expected. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you guys that I said since the beginning that New World factions were going to be tremendously hard to balance, which is why I was like, I don't care too much about the PvP aspects of it on launch because it's going to be a complete nightmare. And it was, wouldn't you know it, it was a complete nightmare. And in my server, it's just like all dominated by the yellows. There's a couple of purples in there. There's no Marauder presence whatsoever. As a matter of fact, I looked at my map earlier today, and considering that I haven't played for over a week at this point, the map has not changed at all. The exact same companies own the exact same locations, and that's that. And I kind of feel like that map is never going to change. Never going to change. So, you know, that's just the way that New World is for me right now. So I took a break. I was waiting on the whole server transfer things, which we're going to get into because they're talking about those right now. And at the same time, I also hit a wall in my crafting because it just felt like it was taking too long to level up my crafting, which, you know, I'm not particularly surprised that that's the case. But it's just weird for me to see everybody just rushing to level 60. And then, you know, if you go see, a lot of them will not have like crafting, gathering. They haven't done any of these things. Because like I was just thinking to myself, I don't want to go above 40 right now because my crafting and gathering is super behind. So I stopped leveling to do crafting and gathering, but it was just taking a long time, and I was playing by myself, and I was waiting on the server transfer, so I was like, let's just take a break. Since then, I've been following the New World situation over on Upper Echelon Gamer's channel, who's been doing some really, really good content because he is at Endgame. He has way more experience with the game than I do because he basically just spent like a week playing the damn thing nonstop. And he's basically saying that the end game of New World is a complete mess because people are just abusing all kinds of bugs with server lag and all kind of glitches that allow them to basically win wars. There was a glitch, which I believe was patched today, where basically if you put the game in windowed mode and drag the window around, you'd be invincible. And I was just like, wow, that's not particularly good. So yeah, and the way that wars were playing out with the spams and lags, and there's people mass reporting other players to get them banned. So like they'll mass report leaders of companies. That's what they're called in that game, right? They'll mass report the leaders of companies so that they get banned before the war. Then they have to like go through an appeal process to get back in. They'll mass report the most powerful players of a certain company in order to get them banned, in order to, you know, prevent them from participating in the war. And there's all of those things going on. So it's just not in a good place when it comes to like the PvP side of things, which to be honest, like I said, I don't care that much about because I always said that the balance of that is going to be a complete, in the words of Yoshida-san, nightmare. But yeah, as Tanya Raven is saying, it is MMO mentality. Like, I feel that a big portion of that comes, it's like, look, most MMO players will have either brushed with World of Warcraft or, you know, even a majority of MMO players will probably have played World of Warcraft. And I've said this multiple times in my streams, and that is that World of Warcraft in a way has kind of conditioned player bases to just rush to endgame. That's the mentality. You rush to the end game because that's the only content that matters in World of Warcraft. Traditionally, that's the way that it goes. And that is just a really bad mentality to have in a lot of these games, because it's almost like, I just feel like you're never going to get an MMO to release the way that they used to back in the day, where people like are actually curious about exploring the world. Like, people will look at the zones that an MMO launches with. And like, for instance, in the case of New World would say like, okay, this zone is from 1 to 25. And then this zone will be from 25 to 35. This will be from 45, whatever. I guarantee that a majority of the people that went to play New World, they looked at that map and they're just like, okay, which one's the level 60 zone? These three, these are the only ones that matter. All these other zones, they don't matter because they're not the max level zone. Which, unfortunately, that's the way that a lot of people look at MMOs now. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way that it is. But anyway, let's take a look at the New World patch that we have here. Take a look at the patch notes to learn about bug fixes, quality of life adjustments, and our plans for rolling out server transfers. And let me tell you, I've already glimpsed at this, and the news that I have are not necessarily good news. New World Update 1.03 server transfer details. New World Update will release for Central Europe. It's already released by the time you're watching this. It released earlier this morning, this early morning. Greetings, adventurers! With this update, we have laid the final groundwork for the server transfer feature. We've also included a swath of bug fixes. Thanks to all those who helped us track down these issues through their reports on the official New World forums. Before we dive into the details on exactly how the server transfer system works, our plan to roll it out to all regions in our list of bug fixes, we want to thank everyone who has supported New World in the first few weeks after launch. To show our appreciation for your patience, we're granting all players the Stoic in-game title. This title is meant to thank all of those who, as the title describes, states, showed solid resolve in the face of epic wait times. The title will be automatically granted to your character, blah, 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 blah. Tell you how to do titles and whatnot. We've also added the waiting emote in the in-game store for free. In a way, this almost feels like they're trying to make a joke out of this situation. Let me tell you, I don't think anybody's laughing. I mean, I'm laughing a little bit, but I think most people are not laughing. As an additional thank you, to claim the emote, navigate to the in-game store and select the emotes tab. There you'll find the waiting emote available for free. I actually haven't seen what it looks like. This is like the old Sonic waiting emote. You guys remember that? Sonic used to do this all the time. Spotlight. Character server transfers. Okay, here's the meat of this update. While we want everyone to find their long-term home in a tournament as soon as possible, we also want to ensure the process is safe and ready for everyone to use. We've been hard at work on the feature and testing it for the past 2 weeks, but because this feature is brand new, we have decided to take a safe, incremental approach to rolling out transfers to all players. Now, let me tell you what you've done. Let me actually tell you what you've done, because this is one of the few things that I have a problem with when it comes to New World, and I made a video talking about this. What they've done is, like, week 1, they're like, oh my god, our servers are full, we have a serious problem. There's too many people on our servers, release more servers. There's still too many people on our servers. Okay, we need to implement a server transfer. And so they say, next week, guys, next week, there's a server transfer. So if you want to start playing right now, just join any, low population server, and then we'll let you transfer to a new one next week. This is what they said. The players didn't ask for this. The players did not say this. Amazon Game Studios said this. Next week rolled around. What did they do? Oh, the server transfer technology, it's not there yet. Like, we're running into weird situations and, there's bugs. We can't implement this yet, but next week, for sure, we'll give you server transfers next week. And, the first week I was like, okay, fine. This is your first game, the first game that you're, like, releasing or whatever. The first big project like this that you're releasing.
Best sub ever.
And, so I was like, okay, fine. So next week, this stuff comes around. Gorgor the Hunter, thank you very much for being Girl Singing with us for 3 months. Tip of the hat. Appreciate the support. Thank you. And, so next week rolls around. What happens? They're like, we got it. it's, you know, it's running, it's perfect. We have all the server transfer technology, but we don't want to implement it yet because weekend is coming up and we don't want to give you downtime during the weekend. We want you guys to enjoy the game during the weekend. So that's like, at this point, 3 weeks have gone by. And that brings us to this week and to today specifically, which is when they've enabled server transfers, which technically speaking, they haven't enabled it everywhere yet. They began with the, I believe the African servers, if I'm not mistaken, AP servers. I think that's what those are, whatever. They began with one server region and they're like, okay, we're going to monitor on this one server. It was one server in one server region. They enabled it and they decide, okay, we're going to monitor it. After that, we're going to extend it to that whole region. And after that, we'll deploy it on other regions. So there's going to be rolling deployment on the server transfers. And that's what they call a safe, incremental approach to rolling out transfers to all players. The big problem here is that in my book, they took too long. Server transfers should have been available day one. And now we have another problem. And this is actually a weird thing because I've been monitoring this and it's kind of a weird thing that I've noticed. Now there's a website that tracks like all of their traffic. It is newworldstatus.com. This website's been keeping itself updated and I haven't been following this website too closely over the last week, but something weird happened and I can't find like an article or a post or anything that talks about this, which is if you go to Worlds and you sort it by players because there's empty worlds, these worlds show up as offline. And I went into the game and I actually checked and I couldn't find, I didn't look too deeply. I looked for some names and all of the names that I looked from this list, I couldn't find them. I didn't look at the entirety of the list, but I looked at some names on this list and I couldn't find a single one of these servers there. And I'm wondering what happened to these servers. Because I would imagine at some point there were players in these servers and now these servers are gone. How does that work? What happened there? This is weird. So I don't know exactly what happened to these servers. I don't know what the situation is. Either way, if you keep scrolling through right now, we're ordered by the amount of servers on the amount of players on a server. And you can see you got some servers with 100 people, 200 people, 300 people, whatever. And it starts going up and up and up. Now, in my opinion, from my experience with the game, I believe that in order for a server to stay healthy, you're going to need an average active player base of about 500 players. So in my opinion, more is better in that situation, so long as you don't go too close to the cap because then it becomes worse. Now, in my opinion here, what they should do, because, there's already been a significant decline in their population, which is to be expected with any MMO. Although, these numbers, don't pay too much attention to these numbers because we're looking at this like 3 p.m. Europe on the middle of a weekday. So the numbers are not going to be too big. I would imagine that by the time we reach like 6 p.m. Europe time, these numbers will be around anywhere between 450,000 and 500,000, maybe even 600, but oscillating between those. And on a weekend, they might go a little bit higher. But, I just think that before you enable server transfers, you should start merging some of these servers. And I know that this is a topic that nobody wants to talk about. Oh, the server merge is going to be complete chaos. It's like, look, they've planned this from the beginning. Like, there's a reason why there's a thing called world sets. If you actually go into the game and you look at these world sets here, like for instance, this right here, Arcadia Alto, the reason why there's a world set is because they specifically say in the game, if servers, drop below a certain amount of players, we will do server mergers, and the servers that you can merge with are the servers in this world set. So I would assume they already have technology in place that allows them to server merge. Exactly, like Tanya Raven is saying, they have too many servers. I believe that is definitely one of the problems. Right now, there's too many servers and not enough players that are playing concurrently. I'm not saying there's not enough players playing the game. I'm saying there's not enough players playing the game simultaneously. So what they should do before they enable server transfers is merge servers. Because what's going to happen? Some people, they're not going to be aware of what the server situation is. they're not going to know. Because, I mean, you know, people, they see the server transfer option. They speak with their friends like, hey, what server going to go to? Oh, let's go to this one. Okay, let's go. Boom, everybody transfers over. It's not like you can see what the status of a server is. You can't see what the map of that server looks like, which in my opinion is something that they should give you as information, because Amazon has that information. Surely they could give us like a snapshot of what the map looks like, so that players would be able to go like, okay, here's what this map looks like, here's what this one looks like. Although that also can cause like imbalance, because people are like, oh, I want to go to a map that's just like dominated by the Covenant faction, or I want to go to a map that's dominated by the Marauders faction, which is again one of the reasons why, in my opinion, there should have been PvE servers and PvP servers, because PvP players that actually want to PvP, they'll want to go to a balanced server as opposed to going to a server that is dominated by their faction. Because if a server is dominated by their faction, they're not going to be able to actually do any PvP, because their faction is just going to dominate the server. There's not that much action to be there. So if you had PvP servers, PvP players would be incentivized to go to these PvP servers and actually, you know, go to ones that are balanced, so that there would be a healthy amount of PvP. Unfortunately, that's not the case. PvP is a Care Bear toggle mode, and that is going to be a problem ultimately. And like I said, players have almost no information. Like, before we continue reading this, I'm going to show you what the interface looks like. They give us a video here. Here's what the interface for swapping worlds look like. Okay? You go in, you go to the store, you go to your world transfer right there, and then world transfer single use, you click it, you use it, and immediately after you buy it, they're just like, boom, okay, pick your new world. And like, look at the information that you get when you're picking a new world. Population, how many players are in queue at that exact time, whether or not your friends are on there, and the world set and the world. Like, that's it. It's like, this is not necessarily, you know, interesting information for you to pick which server you want to go to. So this is why, in my opinion, they should have at least merged the servers, so that every server would have a healthy population. And that way, you know, regardless of where players end up moving to, you'll know that that server is going to have a healthy enough population that players are going to be able to play on that server. Now, the problem here is obviously that if you enable server transfers now and you merge servers afterwards, there's going to be a significant shift in the population of those servers, and it's going to be a mess. So I think, considering that you've waited 3 weeks, almost a month at this point, to bring this feature, which should have been, you know, ready to go day one, you might as well wait a little bit longer, do your server mergers, and then implement this. I guess the problem is that you're coming up close to the end of the week, and then they're like, well, we don't want to mess with the servers on weekends. And it's like, I don't know what to tell you. What I can tell you is that I think that the way that they're doing it now is going to be the wrong move. And eventually, you're just going to end up with a lot of players that are going to go to dead servers. I think that's eventually what it's going to boil down to. A lot of players are just going to end up in dead servers, and then they're going to have to like enable server transfers again or merge servers afterwards. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to work out. It's going to be real weird. What I can tell you is that I'm not going to do my transfer immediately. I want to see how things shake out. I'm going to look at things after this weekend, and then I'm going to decide where I'm going to be going. But yeah, that's kind of like the New World situation. When all worlds are back online from downtime, our plan is to monitor the framework we created without turning transfers on immediately. Once we have confirmed that the framework holds up at scale, we'll turn on character server transfers in the Utopia world first in the AP Southeast. We'll closely monitor transfers in this world, and if anything goes out of the ordinary occurs, the team will need to make manual interventions. If all goes well, we'll turn it on for the rest of the AP Southeast region. Continue monitoring after 8 hours. Our team hasn't discovered any issues. Fully deploy character server transfers to the other regions. And I don't think it's going to be to all of them at once. I would imagine they do it one region at a time. Thank you to our AP Southeast players for helping us ensure this feature is ready for the worldwide rollout, and thank you to everyone for your understanding and patience. Please stay tuned to Play New World and our forums for the latest updates. Review the video and FAQ so you understand how the transfer will work. This is just like an FAQ of how character transfers work. I believe that they had already done this. One of the important things will be transferring again will require an additional token. Our team, this is if you regret where you ended up in, which I think is going to be a case for a lot of players. Our team will continue monitoring world population queue times and will evaluate the need for additional wave of server transfer tokens to be given out for free. After we are sure players have had plenty of time to find the right server for them, we will later make server transfer tokens available for purchase in the store. We will give notice ahead of time when tokens are changing to a paid service. Then they talk about some of the bugs that they fixed. So implemented final pieces of the server transfer framework, added improvements to the world selection UI, added clearer messaging when a player is kicked due to going AFK or violating the EAC, added clearer messaging when stacked discounts are present, such as territory standing and faction discounts on property taxes, implemented backend changes to help our team investigate concerns around the client performance in war. So wait, you didn't fix the client performance issues in war. This thing right here is one of, at least I think this is one of the things that upper echelon gamers was saying, which is basically you can lag out, you can lag teams out by spamming certain AoE abilities, which by the way they fixed in a really dumb way. But like you can watch UEG's videos for that because he goes way more in depth. He has more experience. But they've implemented backend changes to help the team investigate what is going on with the performance in war. So they haven't fixed the problem. They've implemented the tools that will allow them to analyze the problem. Adjust the respawn timer in Boatswain Ambrose and various other elite enemies throughout the world. In the depths, players must now be in the arena to damage Thorpe. An error message now appears when players attempt to buy their own items in the trading post. Reverted the chest/loot change from update 1.02 that was causing too many refining reagents to roll from chests. So they nerfed a buff that they previously did, which, let me just tell you something that a lot of people will classify as, this as, what do you call it when someone exaggerates too much? Hyperbole. A lot of people call this hyperbole, but what they've done pretty much destroyed the economy of the game, which was already not particularly very solid. But what they've done, the economy of New World, forget about it. Like that's just gone. The integrity of that economy is just gone because for like a full 1 or 2 weeks, they just implemented something that gave people some of the rarest materials in the game. And if you are starting, if you get to those zones now, like say if you didn't rush to Endgame, right? And now you're getting to those zones finally, you're not going to get the same materials that everybody's already gotten. So, it is what it is. Just the volume on the Amazon's games. Splash screen armor is limited to 1 skill perk per piece. I'm not even that far into test this particular feature. Added general performance improvements for visual artifacts and graphic settings. Dies now removed from items upon trade with a warning message present. The time to declare war timer now visually pauses. Make it clear when an invasion is imminent, but not yet scheduled. Territory remains in a conflict state after invasions and war can be declared. This is actually interesting because the few times that I helped people in my server to put a place into conflict, nobody was able to declare war because apparently there was an impending invasion that wasn't even in the map when we were doing our thing. And then we do our thing and it's like, there's an invasion coming, so you can't declare war anyway. And I was like, oh, all right. Okay. General bug fixes. Fixed issues with the T4 and T5 Azoth staffs. Go close those high-level portals because you weren't able to actually close high-level portals. Fixed an issue causing the abandoning event notification to persist. I believe I've seen this before on a previous patch note. Fixed the housing UI issue. The UI will now correctly show that property taxes are subject to the full price of the home and not impacted by the first home buyer discount. Fixed issues with early game spawning. The Watchtower respawn point is replaced by a settlement after it has been discovered. Players no longer incorrectly respawn at Watchtower after selecting to respawn at settlement. Fixed various location issues throughout the game. Fixed an issue where not all items to town projects were consumed when completing the mission. Resolved login errors that prevented players from accessing their character. Issue that caused the arena keys not to drop as intended. Issue that caused the runic bear armor to not be appropriately dyed during wars. Pet placement issue. Pets placed in an outside and an otherwise empty home now remain in the home after the player logs out instead of returning to the pet's player inventory. AP Southeast servers now display the correct time zone in game. Fixed an issue that caused company invites to persist after the client accepts. Fixed an issue that caused Raja spawns to stack forever. 1 big cat at a time, please. Our team was able to include fewer other urgent fixes. Fix an issue that caused holding and dragging around the client while in windowed mode to constantly re-trigger invincibility. If you fix this issue as well as you fixed this one, then it's still there. I don't know if they fixed it or not. Fix an issue that caused taxes to not go into the controlling company's treasury. Fix an issue that caused penalty length for suspensions and bans to say over a year. Fixed issues with companies not receiving some territory taxes discovered are fixed for the issue with titles achievements not always updating correctly. Will need some additional work. Removed it from the list. Fixes below are tentative fixes and mitigations, so you don't know if you fix this. Work to fix an issue where wars and invasions kicked off early in the schedule. Fix an issue when auto settlement stage is upgraded and extended when town projects are completed. Players should no longer become stuck when entering or exiting an instance. If a player reconnects and their player is dead, their character is dead, the respawn screen is open with respawn options available. Players who are currently stuck need to contact customer support to have their character unstuck. So yeah, does not address a lot of the endgame problems that I've seen in Upper Echelon's videos. They will enable server transfers, but they're not doing server mergers, which I think is going to be more negative. It's going to have a more negative than positive impact. And yeah, it's like at the end of the day, the way that I'm looking at this is I enjoyed my time with New World, and now I'm just going to wait. I'm just going to wait and see what else they do. I'm also hoping that they bring out the blunderbuss sooner rather than later, because I'd love to try that out. But right now, let's just say I'm not in any rush to jump into the end game of it, because it seems like it's pretty borked, and the economy also seems like it's botched on account of them basically breaking drop rates on high-level crafting materials and now reverting that change. And it's like, okay, I see how that's going to work out, especially when PvP is so incredibly item-level dependent. Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a problem if you're someone who is not already grabbing these materials like me, because I was taking my time. But we'll see how all of that stuff works out. And there's one more thing that I want to talk about that really bothers me. And this was one thing that I was not sure how much it was going to bother me. But if you actually watch like the second live stream that I did on YouTube of New World, you'll notice when I first jumped into the very first expedition, I was like, oh yeah, let's do the expedition. And then I get there and I see, wait, it says here you need a key. Yeah, that I think is going to be another thing that I think is going to bother me the further we go into the game, because I believe it was also UEG who said that these keys are going to get notoriously difficult to craft, and if you want to get your own keys, you basically have to craft them, as currently you can't actually buy these keys in the marketplace. So if you want to do expeditions, which is this game's version of like 5-man dungeons, you essentially need to have like a bunch of crafting professions in order to be able to... I know that one of the ones that you definitely need to have is like stone cutting. I don't know which ones are the other ones, but you definitely need like a bunch of stone cutting. And you need to have these crafting professions in order to be able to craft your own keys, unless you just know someone that has all of these crafting professions and is willing to put their own materials, because I think some of the materials are even bind on pickup. And they're willing to put their materials into these stones in order to bring you into the dungeon. And I was like, why do you even need these keys? Why can't you just go and do the dungeon? Why can't you just go and do the just go do the dungeon? No, you got to have a key. One person in your group needs to have a key, and you know that is going to be something that I can see being a problem. And yeah, on top of it, right now, like I said, my server boosted through so fast that I used to see messages for expeditions like every other hour or so. At least there'd be like 1 or 2 people trying to form groups for expeditions. And ever since then, I've been logging in and there's like nobody running expeditions anymore. I don't know if they ran out of keys. I don't know if it's just not an efficient grinding thing. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to be able to see all of the expeditions in the game at this point, which sucks, because that was one of the things that I was kind of excited for, because I liked expeditions. I've done the first 2 ones and I really like them, but you know, that's That's what New World is looking like right now. I'm a little bit disappointed, obviously. But we'll see if Amazon Studios is going to be able to pull through. Either way, I don't regret the money that I've spent on the game. I still enjoyed my time with it. I still think it's fine. So, I mean, I still think it's fine that I spent those $40 for the... I think I got like 150 hours out of it at this point. So, you know, even if I never played it again, that's fine. But I'll probably will play it again when they update it and do stuff with it. We'll just see if they're able to do these updates in a way that is going to feel good, or if they're going to keep like stumbling through and saying like, oh, we'll get that stuff done next week. And then like 2 weeks later, they actually implement the things that they said they were going to do a week after. So we'll see how that works out.